everyone, my name is Shauna in case you don't know, and welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to be doing the Nintendo book tag. This tag has 12 questions and they are all based on different Nintendo game systems and Nintendo games and characters and stuff like that. So let's crack on in with this video. The first question is Nintendo Entertainment System, a classic you want to read. So I don't have many classics on my shelves. One of the classics that I do have on my shelf is Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. I'm a little confused by this book. According to Goodreads, it's considered a classic, so I'm going to count it as a classic, but for some reason it says it was published in 2009, which I'm really confused about. I don't really know what's up with this book, how it was written or anything like that, because it's by Jane Austen and Seth Grahame-Smith. So I'm just really confused by this book, but according to Goodreads it's a classic, so I want to read it. I really enjoyed the movie when I watched it, so I'm really looking forward to reading the book. I'm not a huge fan of the cover because that face creeps me out. As far as I remember from the movie, Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies is essentially the plot of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, but with zombies. So I'm hoping that it'll be just as good as the movie, if not better. And I'm also hoping that because it says that it's also by Seth Grahame-Smith and not just Jane Austen, that it will be in a better writing style than Jane Austen's style of writing, because I don't like Jane Austen's style of writing. Also, even though the cover creeps me out, I love this edition of the book because it seems like so old and pretty and it feels so nice to crack open. And then let me see if I can find the images. There are artwork in the book, so I really like this edition. I found it at a thrift store several years ago. Question number 2 is SNES Super Nintendo, a sequel you liked more than the first. A lot of times the second book in a series suffers from second book syndrome, which made it really hard to choose one for this prompt. Second book syndrome, in my opinion, is when a book slows down the pace from the first book and not as interesting as the first book, and specifically it is used as a means to get to the next book and not flesh out the story in its own, which I feel is the case for a lot of different series. However, one second book that I really enjoyed that I think was a great sequel that was better than the first is Found a Night by Ben Alderson, the second book in the Dragori series. I've talked about this book nonstop on my channel. I honestly feel like with this series you can really see Ben Alderson's writing improve as he keeps writing on with this series, and so the writing from the first book is so much more improved in this second book. I also really appreciated that you get a lot of representation in the second book, much more than the first book, even though the first book was filled with representation. And also one of my favorite characters is introduced in the second book. His name is Jazzrov. He's an amazing character and I absolutely love him. Number 3, Nintendo 64, a book that revolutionized the way you look at the world. I don't know if I'd say that there's any book that revolutionized the way that I looked at the world, but I think that this book definitely had an impact on the way that I looked at this world. This book is Family Don't End With Blood, Cast and Fans, and How Supernatural Has Changed Your Lives. This was edited by Lynn S. Zumernez. So Family Don't End in Blood is a book about the different supernatural actors and fans talking about just basically how this series changed their life. For some it helped them connect to their partner, for some it helped them get out of a cult, it helped them with suicidal ideation, those types of things. This book sort of revolutionized the way I looked at supernatural specifically because I understood that books and shows and movies and stuff can help you move on with hard things in your life. I seriously understand that. I've had series help me with my depression, help me accept myself, things like that. But this book really explained to me how supernatural means so much to people and why it means so much to people, and it's just so crazy how much supernatural has really helped people in their lives, and I think that this is a great book. It's a bit slow, but that's just because not every person writing this book you're gonna like their writing style or whatever, but it is very inspirational and it will revolutionize the way that you look at shows and specifically supernatural. Next up is number 4, Gamecube, a popular book that did not go over so well with you. I'm going with the famous A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Unfortunately, I found this one to be very problematic. I'll link my video down in the description below about why I think it's problematic. And it was also very boring for the first like 75% of this book. And it's like a 420 page book or something. So you really have to like push through the boringness to get to anything even slightly exciting. But at that point I was so frustrated with this book that it just did not go over well with me. Still undecided about reading the sequel or not though, because I've heard that the sequel is better, but again, this book is problematic, so should I read the sequel? I don't know. Number 5 is Wii, a new favorite book. I still have my Wii, I still use it, it is still so much fun. So a new favorite book of mine is the book Darling by Kay Ankrum. I won this book in a Y'all West giveaway and I accessed ARC through NetGalley. I really enjoyed this book. I'm not normally a huge fan of thrillers, so I was really scared to read Darling. but it succeeded my expectations for the book. It's a Peter Pan retelling with thriller elements and tons of representation. I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend that all of you check it out. Even if you're not a huge thriller fan, definitely check it out because I hate thrillers, but I really enjoyed the book Darling. Next up is number 6, which is Nintendo Power, favorite graphic novel series or a series you want to start. So I've only read one book in this graphic novel series, but I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to reading the sequels. And the one that I'm talking about is Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Osman. It is such a cute graphic novel. It's just a cute little gay romance story, and you can really breeze through it, and it's just so delightful and fun. I really enjoyed this one, and this one is one of my favorite books of all time. I believe there's 4 volumes out so far, and I do have the second volume right here, so I will hopefully be getting around to reading this one really soon. I hope there's some more sweet moments that will just make me smile with so much joy in the second volume. Number 7, Super Mario, a character that you love to squish like a Goomba. I love to squish Peter Pettigrew, aka Wormtail, like a Goomba. I hate Peter Pettigrew. He is one of the worst characters in the Harry Potter series. I almost feel like he's worse than the actual like super bad villains in the series because he betrayed his friends, he was only in it for himself, and Lupin spent like 12 or 13 years thinking that Wormtail was a good guy. You know how messed up that is? Like, Lupin spent such a long portion of his life thinking that Sirius was the bad guy when it was Wormtail all along. Pisses me off so much. I hate Wormtail. Number 8 is Zelda, a newer fantasy that you consider to be a modern classic. I think my answer for this one is going to be very obvious, but I'll go grab it. I don't think anyone is going to be shocked by this. Harry Potter. It's a new fantasy in the sense that the first book came out in 1997, which is much newer than the actual books that are considered classics, but I consider this to be a modern classic. Everybody loves it, everybody's read it, it is such a great series, and I feel like when a book gets like 50 different versions of it, like 50 different editions, I feel like at that point it's just gonna be a modern classic. And this of course is the Hufflepuff 20th anniversary edition of the first book, and I love it so much. I really need to collect the other house editions because they're all so pretty. Number 9 is Samus, favorite sci-fi novel or one that you want to read. I'm gonna go with one that I want to read so I can talk about a book that I have been wanting to read that I haven't read yet. So a sci-fi book that I've really been wanting to read for such a long time is Illuminae. This is by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. So the major reason why I picked up Illuminae is because first of all it has a pretty cover, and the major actual reason why I picked it up is because it isn't written in traditional novel format, and I really enjoy books like that. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I know nothing about what it's about, I just know that it's not traditional format. There's like here that's like IMs, like messages, there's like transfer proposal things. It's definitely not a normal book. This is another one that I'm really hoping to read soon, but I always put off reading it because it's so thick. But I know that because it's not a traditional novel format, I'll probably fly through it really quickly. Number 10, Pokemon, book editions that you want to collect. I feel bad that I'm using Harry Potter for so many of my answers in this tag, but honestly, they just fit for so many of these. So I definitely want to collect more editions of the Harry Potter books. I want to collect like all the editions of the Harry Potter books. I have been actively collecting different editions for such a long time. So I want to collect more of the house edition, and I want to collect more of the editions written in different languages. I've currently been collecting some of the first edition British paperback versions. I have the first edition British paperback version of Chamber of Secrets and of Prisoner of Azkaban, and I think these are the first edition because when I go in here it says first edition, and also says that only the first 2 books are available when this one came out. I've been finding a lot of these at Pals Books. Shoot, I was showing the author's name. It's too late now. I'm not gonna go back and refilm that, but friendly reminder, I don't support the author. I've been finding these at Pals Books. These editions are fairly cheap because for some reason people in the US don't like these covers as much. I don't understand why. But yeah, they have a ton of editions like this at Pals Books. Pals Books is like the ultimate place to buy every edition of the Harry Potter books that you could ever want. They have such a wide variety. Question number 11 is Donkey Kong, a book with original characters. So a book with original characters that I've read recently was Call Me Athena, Girl from Detroit. I don't remember the author's name off the top of my head. I'm very sorry about that. Call Me Athena is a beautiful historical fiction novel written in verse, and all of the characters are very unique, and they are not like any other characters that I've read before, especially the main character who's in the later timeline, because there's 3 different stories. 2 are in one timeline, one's in another timeline. They all intersect. It's really beautiful. One timeline is in the US and it is talking about immigrants working at factories, and then in the Timeline in the past, there's two lovers that fall in love. It is very like a feminist historical fiction, so I really appreciate that, and all of the characters were just so unique and so different from any other characters that I've read. Question number 12 is Nintendo fandom. Favorite Nintendo game or games or game you really want? I'm gonna go through some of my favorite games. I can't really like choose my number one favorite. I love them all, but let's go through some of these and tell you ones that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed all the Pokemon games. The ones that I've played the most were Pokemon Sword and Shield, I forget which one I have, Pokemon Omega Ruby, Pokemon Y, I think it was. It might have had X, pretty sure it was Y. I really like Pokemon Y because you can like change the outfits so much and it's really fun. I really liked Pokemon Sun and Moon, and I really liked Pokemon Pearl. Those were the main ones I think that I played that I really enjoyed. And of course I enjoy Pokemon Go too, but you don't really play that on a Nintendo system, you play it on like your phone, and I really enjoy it. I really enjoyed all the versions of Mario Kart. I think the most recent version is my favorite. I have it on my Nintendo Switch. Although I do really appreciate the Wii version. That was like the one that I played the most, but I really like the one on the Switch, the newest one, because there's so many more options of courses. Of course I enjoyed the Mario Bros games, and I really enjoy Super Mario 3D World. My brother had that on his Wii U and I would always play it. It was so much fun. The final game that I'll mention for right now that I really enjoyed was Zelda Wind Waker. So Zelda the Wind Waker is the only one that I've really played almost all the way through the game. I sort of got like lost, like I finished the main storyline and then I forgot what I was supposed to do next. I really like the animation style. It is such like a cute little cartoon style as opposed to the normal Zelda style, so it's like very much like kid version, like really cute, and I really enjoyed it. I played it on my brother's Wii U, so I definitely like maybe want to get my own copy of it because I don't have a Wii U, but my brother does. But maybe I want to get my own copy of it someday so that I can play it again because I really enjoyed Wind Waker. It was an incredible game with a great storyline. So that was all for this book tag. If you enjoyed it, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me if you haven't already. All of the questions for this tag will be linked down in the description below in case you would like to do this tag. Feel free to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and subscribe to me if you haven't already. All of my other social media will be linked down in the description below. I upload videos 3 times a week, so stick around next Friday for my next video or wait until next Tuesday for my next book related video. Until next time, goodbye!